Welcome everyone to the second episode of our CSA Fireside. Last week, we were joined by some student leaders from the island nation of Papua New Guinea. And this week, we're in Asia. I've never been to Asia. I'd love to go there. We almost went to Pakistan in January, but unfortunately, it was postponed, but I was really looking forward to it. We have with us some phenomenal student leaders from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Malaysia. And I have the privilege of serving this organization as its chairperson. The Commonwealth Students Association was established in 2012 at the Education Ministers meeting held in Mauritius. Education ministers and students felt that there needed to be a collective student voice in the Commonwealth. And 11 years later, we're still standing, still growing, still seeking and exploring ways to unite the student voice. And this platform is one of the ways that we're trying to unite the student voice on education issues. Now, our theme, the topic for today is the student voice in Asia taken seriously? Now, obviously, I am here to listen and ask questions, as I am from Jamaica, the beautiful island of Jamaica. So I don't know the experience of my Asian counterparts, but I'm really excited to learn, because if the organization represents 8 Commonwealth Asian countries, we need to hear the Asian voice. So I'll allow them to introduce themselves, starting with Sanya.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. It's a pleasure to be here today and representing the voices of students in Pakistan. And as we know, a lot of challenges are very mutual. So really honored to be among all the other student activists from the region. My name is Sania Haider. By profession, I'm an economist, and by passion, I'm a young activist, youth voice activist. I'm also the Commonwealth Youth Council's special interest group representative, where I try to amplify and work with all the Commonwealth youth networks to amplify the voices of marginalized young people across the Commonwealth. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Sanya. Thank you. Anban.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. It's really an honor to be here and meet all of you. So hi, everyone. My name is Anban Raj. I'm originally from Malaysia. I'm a SDG4 advocate, and we run a leadership development course for young people by young people. So in terms of profession-wise, I'm actually a data scientist, currently based in Melbourne, Australia. And once again, it's lovely to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Farhan?
Hello everyone, good evening from Malaysia. My name is Ahmad Farhan Rosli. I'm currently the president for the National Union of Malaysian Muslim Students, also serving as the chairman for Law Affairs, Parliamentary Affairs, and Human Rights Affairs for Malaysian Youth Council. Nice to meet all of you. We hope we get a fruitful discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rifad.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I am Shakir Mahmood from Bangladesh. I'm a social entrepreneur and youth organizer. I'm the chairman of CSA Foundation. By professionally, I'm working as the assistant managing director of Golden Life Insurance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, I have the pleasure of co-hosting today. Well, he will be lead host, Ridgway, and I'll allow him to introduce himself and take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Benjamin. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special episode of our podcast titled, Is the Student Voice Taken Seriously in Asia? I'm your co-host, Rijvi Arifin, and co-founder and co-chair of Awareness 360, a youth-led organization passionate about driving positive change. It's truly an honor to have you with us today for what promises to be an enlightening and engaging discussion. First of all, I want to thank Commonwealth Student Association and Benjamin, my co-host, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this discussion. So before we dive into our conversation, let me briefly share my perspective on today's topic. So having worked closely with young changemakers from across the globe, I've come to appreciate the immense potential and resilience of our youth, particularly in Asia. But I've also witnessed the unique challenges they face and the importance of amplifying their voices. So today we are joined by a remarkable lineup of guest speakers from, like representing the vibrant youth from Bangladesh, Malaysia, Pakistan. Throughout our 1.5 hour podcast, we will explore the challenges, aspirations, and experiences of students in Asia and discuss how we can collectively strengthen and promote the student voice in our region. So our format today will include 5 segments, each focusing on a different aspect of the student experience in Asia. And we will spend around 15 minutes on each segment and engaging thoughtful discussion with our guests. So now, without further ado, let's begin. So our first segment would be post-COVID student challenges. Certainly, like in the post-COVID era in Bangladesh, I've seen young students face challenges such as disrupted education due to closures, economic hardship, affecting affordability, mental health concerns, difficulties in finding employment, and unequal access to vaccines. So these challenges have impacted their education and overall well-being. So, and in the case of Malaysia, since I have a lot of Malaysian friends, I personally know their own set of hurdles as well. So including, like digital divide issues and the need for innovation solutions to continue their education. It is essential that we address these challenges head on. And also for Pakistan, with its diverse educational landscape, also offers valuable insights into the post-COVID scenario. As a global community, we must learn from each other's experiences and work together to ensure equitable access to quality education for all. So my first question would be for Rifat from Bangladesh. My question is, could you please share the post-COVID situation and challenges faced by students in Bangladesh?
Our country was also faced trouble in Corona period, especially educational institutions were closed for more than a year. In the situation, the students were more depressed, parents were also very worried. Students cannot go school at that time. Education sector has suffered the most during the Corona period. The extent and amount of direct and indirect damage are many. It is almost impossible to measure the loss of education to the students due to the closure of educational institution during the lockdown. In this time, students of same stages have been given the opportunities to pass to the next class without any examination. Realistically speaking, there was no better alternative. However, the point to be taken into consideration is that there will not be any problem in changing the grade of a student up to the primary or lower secondary level. A student studying in 4th or 8th class will not suffer any special harm if he or she is promoted to a higher class without any examination. But those who are studying at the university's level, this matter should be considered deeply. The education and post-education life of university students have not opportunities to pass the upper class without examination. No such special arrangement is available for any students studying in medical or engineering sector. Especially the new assessments methods should be considered in areas of learning that involve practical classes. University level students have suffered the most during the Corona period. Due to the closure of village school, the education of many students has stopped. Many parents have sent their children to the work in factories due to reduced household income during the coronavirus pandemic. Engaged in agricultural work or own small business. Many girl students are married at an early age. After the reopening of village school, students were seen dropping out. Many students have suffered from many disappointments by staying at home because the loss of school friends and sports environment. During the Corona period, the education program of our country was at a standstill, expect from private universities and some specialized educational institutions. Although several alternative methods, including online classes, assessments, thought assignments have been adopted, but in reality, no positive result is seen. Rather, in this gap of 1.5 years, many students have dropped from primary level. Almost everyone has been
Rifat,
separated from the study barrier.
thank you so much. But if I want to know, like, if you have any personal experiences, like how the pandemic affected your personal academic journey. I know you were a student, so can you please, like briefly discuss like how have you faced this, the blunt of this post-COVID situation?
I was in a lot of danger in Corona period. Uh, at this time, my studies suffered a lot. I was away from all kinds of studies for 1 year. Uh, due to the which I have been exposed to many loss. I am a student of diploma in engineering. Engineering department students have more and more practical classes, but it is not possible to do those classes in online due which our session is stuck. I lost almost 1 year. 1 year. I have been able to participate my studies after Corona period, which is big loss for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this insight. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through this experience. But thank you for shedding light on the post-COVID situation in Bangladesh, and your personal insights highlight the resilience of students in the face of adversity. And it's clear that adapting to things like online learning and other new things has been a significant challenge for a lot of students. Thank you so much for your insight. So now I will move to Anban from Malaysia, and I would want to know, like, what about Malaysia? What are the challenges that students are dealing with after the pandemic?
Right, that's an excellent question, Rijvi. So in terms of the impacts that students themselves have felt even before and after the pandemic, I really believe it depends on which demographic that we're looking at. Are we looking at a more urbanly developed area, or are we looking at a more rural? So Malaysia, in terms of demographic, we do have a lot of urban cities, yes, but we also have a lot of less developed areas, as you may already know. So one thing that I'd like to highlight is that students in Sabah and Sarawak, which are two states in Malaysia, have continuously received, I would say, lesser access to technology as a whole. And this in itself, it creates a base of inequality, which they themselves can't overcome. Of course, if governments provide sufficient infrastructure, sufficient support, it can be overcome, but it has been decades, and yet there has been still a struggle. So rolling back to the idea of the pandemic itself, so as we have already seen, for decades at a time, the plane is not too equal as of yet. So I really believe that this is one of the primary challenges that more rural students, they have been facing and continue to face. So one thing that we really saw very clearly in terms of the pandemic struggles that students face all across Malaysia was actually access to technological devices. Like many students, when the classes were conducted online, they simply did not have devices to join the classes, and the government actually struggled to cope with this transition, and a lot of people dropped out of school, and of course the effects of it lasted for many years even so. So yes, I believe this would be my take on this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amran, for this very insightful take. So now I will, I have a follow-up question about Malaysia, so I'll go to Farhan for that. Are there any unique regional challenges that Malaysian students face compared to, like other Asian countries? I know like Malaysia has, I think 3 races. But Malaysia has Indian people, Malay, and Chinese. So do you think like the challenges that you guys face, it's a little bit different than the other countries in Asia?
Thank you for the question. Basically, when we talk about the COVID situation in Malaysia, especially, I try to digest or to give my thought on this from the movement activists, because the biggest issue during the COVID, the pandemic, is the student is not there in the university, and all the activity is restricted. However, the positive side during the pandemic, we can see the student leaders from different background, even though you are from Malay, Chinese, and India, or the rest of people from Sabah and Sarawak, they can work together to assist their colleagues and friends in the university. They're doing their voluntary work. They assist the people. They involved with the voluntary service as the vaccination agent, to create awareness among the public, to go and get vaccinated. This is among the positive impact of the COVID, where all the people coming from a different background in our country, especially the student, we can work together in the spirit of humanity and in the spirit of the safety of the nation, because we need to recover from the COVID, from the pandemic. And that's why I think, regardless of our different background, we work together. The student work together in assisting others during the pandemic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your perspective on the challenges faced by Malaysian students, including the vaccines, is crucial. This conversation emphasizes the need for definitely need for innovative solutions to ensure equitable access to education across the region. So now I will go to Sania from Pakistan. How has Pakistan coped with the post-COVID student challenges, and what are the prevailing issues?
Thank you, Rajvi. I think, like other countries, the main issue was the digital divide. That is, not every student having access to the resources to be able to access educational resources. And even those that had, they had no idea how to do it and how to cope with, during the pandemic, how to cope with this new form of studies where there are only lecture slides being posted in WhatsApp groups. Like there are no, for example, in developed countries, you see they are using official Teams, Microsoft Teams. They have, the schools had the resources to even though there was delay even in developed countries, but they eventually moved to resources such as Microsoft Teams that I can see because I interact with students both in developed and developing in Pakistan. So no such platform. So still, I can see that my younger cousins who are studying in the secondary school and primary schooling in grades of year 2, year 3, their teachers are posting all their assignments, everything in WhatsApp groups. And the same mobile phone is being used by the elder sibling and younger sibling. And if there are by the same 3 students in the same household, there's 3 WhatsApp groups. And in those WhatsApp groups, the teachers are now posting homeworks and resources, which is highly inconvenient. So there is no systematic way forward that the government of Pakistan, and basically in Pakistan, education is a provincial subject. So each of the 4 provinces that we have in Pakistan, we don't have any such policy that they have instituted things like Zoom platforms such as Zoom or Microsoft or some other thing, and resources that they can gather in one place. So that's one of the issues, the digital divide, and not having access to the tablets, phones, to be able to utilize stuff. And even if some students have access, for example, my own brother was studying for his equivalent of A-level exams at the time of pandemic. Even he had an access to phone and a laptop, but just posting lectures was not enough, or even voiceovers of the lectures was not enough. And the other thing was, even if the lectures were posted in English, and we have had this discussion a lot with Benjamin about decolonization of our of our courses or materials, our educational curriculum. So most of the slides were posted, for example, in English, but there was no voiceover in the local languages, so students were unable to understand those. So these challenges are still there. So during the COVID era, things shifted to WhatsApp groups, and it's still continuing on the WhatsApp group. There's no specific policy by the different provincial governments to tackle this issue. So that's one thing we need to really focus on and push government.
Thank you so much. It's great that you have mentioned about the decolonizing of our education system, and it's not only education; it's really everything. And I can relate to a lot of things that you just explained, because the country that I'm based in right now, like we are going through the similar kind of issues right now. So we have talked about the challenges a lot. So now I have a follow-up question for Sania. Do you have any success stories or initiative that have emerged during this period? Because I believe, like, I believe in this quote. It says, "Find your passion, what bothers you." You know. So, do you have any success stories which came out of this whole challenging situation post COVID?
I tried to look for success stories. To be honest, I couldn't find one. Even there was this eLearn Punjab, which the provincial government of Punjab launched a project, and it was something related to putting ebooks for students online. And again, the issue was it was not well thought out. There was several issues with uploading it on the website, and even the books that were there, they were actually in English, and there was no voiceover, or the voiceover was of very poor quality. So and then they removed the voiceover because of the poor quality. So they spent a lot of resources, but nothing really came out of it. The success story that I have for government of Pakistan overall, which it's still a political gimmick in the sense that there is this prime minister's or chief minister's laptop scheme, distribution scheme. So students who score really good marks in for example, in their universities or their main higher secondary school certifications, they are provided with free laptops by the government of different provincial governments or at the federal level. Again, that's a good step for for promoting higher education, but there's a big lag that we see at the primary and secondary schooling, where there is no such provision of laptops, there's no internet access. I think the internet access is a very huge issue. We can talk about that in the next segments as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your insights on the post-COVID situation in Pakistan. And it's inspiring to hear about the positive initiatives and resilience of students in your country. So now we will move to the segment two. Segment two is about education issues in Asia. So moving forward, let's delve into the broader educational landscape in Asia. The major issues that plague our educational systems demand our attention and collective action. Throughout my journey with Awareness 360 and a few other youth-led organizations, I've witnessed the enthusiasm of young minds eager for educational reform and improvements. So in Asia, like elsewhere, we must grapple with issues ranging from outdated curricula to unequal access to quality education. But with these challenges come opportunities for innovation and positive change. And I believe our vibrant youth can be the driving force for such transformation. So my question is for Sania. What are the major issues in education that you believe are prevalent throughout the Asia?
I think, as I talked about earlier, I think we really need to focus on Asia is really diverse. For example, for us as a Commonwealth, if we are talking about the former colonies, we had We have different structures in terms of educational systems. I think that's maybe prevalent in most Asian countries. We have the Cambridge system, for example, in some in countries, and then we have our own local educational system. And within even local, for example, in Pakistan, we have our national language is Urdu and our official language is English. And then we have also regional languages, and students, for example, in the province of Sindh, they study curriculum for a few years in Sindhi language. So there's this mix of, and students get confused at what is that they are required. So even for passing the superior civil services exams, for you to become a part of the civil services, everything is almost in English. So if you want to be part of something in terms of employment opportunities, English is the most preferred language. So that that confusion, I think most of the students from across the Asia can relate to, having multiple languages and different official language and local language versus national language. And some students, and I think there is this other, another problem that I'm being very candid about is that if you are not fluent in English, you are considered not employable, or you're considered that you won't get good opportunities in life. I think that creates a lot of mental health problems as well, that I think more and more with social media, it is upcoming. Previously, yes, it has been a problem since many years now, but I think if you are if you do not have good English speaking skills or writing skills, how do you project yourself on social media, or how it affects your employability is something that I think most of us can relate here.
Thank you so much for bringing this amazing topic, and we all can relate to this. I mean, in the global South, especially, if you know English, people would think that you're smarter than other people, right? So I have a follow-up question. So since you have mentioned that language is one of the things that one of the challenges that we are facing in Asia. So do you have any solution for a space like Commonwealth? As you know, like Commonwealth is a very safe space for young people, and we value the opinion from the young people. So do you have any solutions how Commonwealth can help, in order to bring this inclusivity and make things local? How do we localize things?
I think there should be awareness campaigns, and Commonwealth Students Association can be one major platform in helping to dispel these kinds of negative or taboo that, okay, if you're speaking in your own language, you are less, you're seen as a somewhat, less qualified. So I think running educational campaigns with hashtags, for example, that my language, my pride, or something like that, that can help, or giving out, for example, messages in their own language would make it more relatable to them, and also giving positive messages that, okay, how many languages can you speak fluently, or how many. I think those kinds of initiatives may have a positive impact, or messaging around like important things, like, for example, if you are speaking, myself, my mother language is Dari, and my national language, I've learned English and then Urdu as well. So I speak 3 languages almost on a daily basis. So I think understanding how maybe greater messages or educational campaigns that people who speak, who are multilingual, how does it affect their overall performance? How does it affect their brain development? Like things like that, positive messaging around that, even if you do not speak every language fluently, how much you are more progressive, or how much it affects your brain development. So I think we can do a lot of positive messaging in that way.
Rich, if I may come in here, I'd like to.
Yes, absolutely, please. Yes.
I grew up in a small island with less than 3 million people. That's not even a village in any of your countries. I cannot fathom a primary school of 20,000 children. You all have these high schools and, primary schools of 30,000, 20,000. Just the sheer number of children alone that you have to service, I believe, is a huge hurdle for your government. But that aside, I wanted to piggyback on something Sanya said about the language of instruction and the elitism that is around the English language. I find it offensive. I think it is deeply offensive that a person's intelligence is measured by their ability to speak English. Yes, it is a language of trade, and globally it is recognized. But I agree absolutely, Sanya, that the Commonwealth Students Association has a role to play in shifting this ideology that English is supreme. And I think teachers have a special role to play in that. I'm not sure of the Asian experience, but for Jamaica, we have so many teachers who used to tell us, speak properly, and by speak properly, they meant speak English. Don't speak the local dialect, not chat no patois. Don't chat the language, yes? And growing up in that space, hearing your local tongue being belittled, the inferiority complex grows with you, that if I can't speak English properly, I'm less. So we are going to be working with teachers. We have a number of things that we'll be rolling out soon to shift. We really want to see a paradigm shift in how the language of instruction is viewed in the Commonwealth. It's part of decolonizing. It's part of truth and reconciliation, and you will hear more. Thank you. I had to put that in.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Thank you so much. We really needed this intake from you. I can also relate. I mean, growing up, my education system was Bengali medium, and I kind of taught myself how to speak in English when I moved abroad. So I faced a number of challenges growing up, and also there's this, there's this gap between Bengali medium school and English medium school, and they're like different medium schools, right? So people who were from the English medium schools, they used to think like a few of my friends used to think like they're superior just because they are learning everything in English. So I think it's time that we change that mindset, because English is just a language at the end of the day, and it's a way that we communicate with people. So yeah, thank you so much for your intake. I have an open-ended question for all of you. One of you can answer that, where a couple of you can answer that. So are there any specific policy changes or reforms you'd like to see in your countries? If we start from Sania, do you have any recommendation?
Related to education or generally?
Yes, education, of course, or it can be in general. Yeah. Because every issue is related to another one, so yeah.
Yeah, I think apart from the language, we need to really have policies around that. I think another problem is that we are far behind in terms of the technological revolution. So the government needs to really ramp up. Last week at the Commonwealth Youth Ministers meeting, the Secretary General did launch this AI for Youth challenge. But I think there needs to be more at the local level, at the ground level. The countries are really not prepared for this technology or AI revolution. And the guidelines, I think right now, what can AI be used for? Can it be used in the higher education sector, in students completing their assignments? What are the guidelines around that, the policies? Similarly, at the at the secondary school, primary school level, how can teachers use AI to improve their teaching methods, to be more productive and more efficient? And I think there's lots of policies that can be done around education, why coding is important or not. If it's not important, why is it not? I think we need to really be more progressive in our educational policies.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your intake. Rifat or Farhan, Anban, do you guys want to add anything to Sania's?
Maybe from a Malaysian youth perspective, I do think and I do believe that in terms of higher education reform, Malaysia is having a diverse higher learning institution. We have a private university, we have public university, We have the education institution under Ministry of Education. We have a technical and vocational institution under 3 to 4 ministry. So the management of the higher education in Malaysia is scattered and not really well and really good. In terms of that, Malaysia need to think about the standard higher education institution management. Maybe we can learn from other country. That is in terms of the higher education institution management perspective. Another thing on the freedom of student activism. In Malaysia, we have University and College University Act, which was enacted in 1971 due to the student protests. Because of the student protests, the government decided to enact an act to restricted some of the student activism and student freedom. So there are certain policy and certain proposal from student to government, especially the higher education ministry, to review, to give more space for students, including on the financial management and their right to be heard in the university management. Other than that, we need to have more space for youth representation in Malaysia, because it's very low. We have a few of youth in our parliament, and we need to improve youth representation in the government and other public institutions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your intake. So you're, like I absolutely agree with everything you guys just imposed here. So your thoughts on education issues in Asia are essential, definitely, and it's evident that there is a shared concern about a lot of issues and unequal access. So your perspectives will undoubtedly contribute to meaningful discussions on reform. So we are gonna move to the next segment, and the next segment is about student activism and Commonwealth. So our discussion now leads us to the realm of student activism and international engagement. The dearth of national student organizations in Asia is indeed a concern. But I've also seen incredible grassroots movements led by young people who are passionate about driving change. And that fills with hope. But my next question is, why do you think there are relatively few national student organizations in Asia? I'll go with Rifat.
Okay, thank you. The presence of relatively few national organizations in Asia compared to some other regions. There are many independent student organizations in the world. Among them are All Africa Student Union, Organizing Bureau of European School Student Union, National Union of Students Australia, Canadian Federation of Students. However, the number of such organizations in Asia is very less. We have no independent student organization in Bangladesh. For political reasons, parties from student organizations, but there is no student organization for common student to org. Our government are not interested to creating these types of organizations. Actually, in Bangladesh, the student organizations are no use to the common students. The student organizations should play a strong role in ensuring student problems, demands, rights, and quality education. Their student organizations are busy implementing the political agenda of the main party. The main party, when in our country not able to organize their political activities, they're busy conducting various political activities through their student organizations. The leaders of the student organizations also started to play a role in political activities of the main party. Must under the guidance of the party, high command. In this case, political parties, most of the members of student organizations benefited from attack, lawsuits, and mental causes. Newspapers, sometimes we see news of guest rooms, torture cells, dragging in various educational institutions. The large student organizations should play good role to stop them, but they are not able to stop these kinds of problems. In this case, the name of the weak leaders have been broken, and the leaders' activities are involved in such activities. Normality of ordinary students is spent fair in.
Thank you so much, Rifat. It was very insightful. Uh, I would go to Anban to kind of piggyback on the things that Rifat just mentioned.
Right, excellent points. So I'd probably just like to comment a bit more on international engagement. So like we've been discussing, of course, Asia is such a diverse landscape. So each country is so diverse in its own sense. And a great example of that is even Malaysia. We have so many races within one country itself. So there is one concept that I particularly like that we have implemented in Malaysia. It's called, in the Malay language, it's actually called Berakar Nasional Berakal International. So it basically means while we are nationally rooted, we want to be internationally minded. So while this may be a great concept, in reality, it's actually very, very hard to be implemented because I'm actually a byproduct of the public school system, and we have the international school systems within our country. So in terms of international engagement, those who are the more exposure people receive, the more engaged they seem to get with the international community. So yeah, I believe that would be my take on it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So as we explore the role of the Commonwealth and the historical context of colonialism, it's important to recognize that young students from Asia have a unique perspective to offer. So do you guys think, are there any historical or cultural reasons for like why there is like less participation from Asian countries to the Commonwealth Youth Programs or to the Commonwealth initiatives? And do you think young students in the Asia Pacific region are less involved in the Commonwealth initiative or youth programs because of our colonial past? So I will start with Sania.
Thanks, Rijvi. A very important question because I have been part of the Commonwealth space for since I was a Commonwealth scholar. And while it is heartening to see that most of the Commonwealth scholarship holders are from Asia because of our size, right? So India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Malaysia, we are populous countries. Therefore, we are allocated more spaces when it comes to Commonwealth scholarships. But when it comes to Commonwealth youth programs, I would say particularly engagement into the Commonwealth Youth Program, Commonwealth Youth Networks, we see that there's a big lag behind in how students from the African region, Caribbean region are active in the Commonwealth Youth Programs and initiatives as compared to students from Asia. So I think it really explains, number one, because of my CYC exposure as well. We lack the structures. For example, there are national youth councils and that are really strengthened in most of the, let's say, Caribbean, for example. Caribbean has a really good national youth council structures. They have a regional youth council, whereas Asia lags behind a lot. We don't even have an Asia Regional Youth Council until last week. Last week, the Commonwealth Youth Ministers really endorsed that we need to establish an Asia Regional Youth Council to represent the issues of young people in the Asia region. It is almost half of the population of the Commonwealth resides in Asia, but we are really missing from the youth spaces and initiatives. So young people and the student issues, they go mostly hand in hand, I would say. So I think the lack of those structures, and it has to do with colonial past, to answer your question, because of what we see in our colonial history. It was very patriarchal, very elitist, right? So what we see is that what we see right now is most of the people running the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, all the different Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Youth, they are old men in their own countries. I was about to say white, but it's not white, it's like Asian, but old men really running these important portfolios that are important for the well-being of students. And they are really not aligned with the well-being. They are not really concerned with the well-being of students, and that's why they just take National Youth Council, Students Associations, Students Unions, something that is secondary and not important for students' voices. So I think what we really need to, there needs to be an emphasis on how to have more young ministers, young parliamentarians into our education system. I think we, at the school level, we need to have those United Nations model United Nations type of thing, but not at model United Nations, but actually parliamentary debates, so that our young people are really inspired to go and be members of parliament, members of bureaucracy, so that they are aware and very close to student issues and youth issues. I think that's an important point that I wanted to raise.
Thank you so much. I love the fact that you brought the gender perspective, the gender lens. I have a kind of, I'm not sure like if it's relevant to that particular topic, but I'm just curious, how do we, increase the participation of young girls and women into the Commonwealth space and in the leadership position? It can be, like in your government, where in anywhere in general. Do you have any solutions, and do you have any solutions for the Commonwealth?
I think really important. Number one thing is role models. There are role models really missing. If I see myself, I haven't seen someone from Asia inside the, if I'm talking about Commonwealth as an organization or Commonwealth Secretariat, someone at the senior level. Right now, fortunately, our Secretary General since the past many years have been a female, which is really inspiring to see, and someone who's been from a marginalized background or a rural background in the Caribbean, but someone I really need to see someone from Asia, right, who is at a similar position. So I think representation matters, seeing role model matters. So we need to do more in that space in terms of engaging more gender inclusivity, and also having, for example, I think quotas. I think we still need to, there is for example, in Pakistan Parliament, there's quota for women, right? And that really helps bring women parliamentarians in the space. So I think whenever we are talking about students associations, students unions, there should be some quota for women to engage in, and also having safeguarding policies. I think that's another thing that CYC, Commonwealth Youth Council, our current council, is really concerned about and working to have a safeguarding policy, because when women don't feel safe, they do not join institutions. So I think we need to work more in making spaces safe for women as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your unique perspective on this. Anban and Farhan, also Benjamin, would you like to add something to the previous question? Why there like less participation from Asia? Is it something to do with the colonial past?
My Malaysian brothers, go ahead.
Maybe other than cultural factor, we need to look forward as well, the geographical factors. I think this is the biggest challenges we need to address. I know Benjamin, because of the Commonwealth Association, and have the representative from Malaysia. So this is our role. Those who know about Commonwealth session to promote and to tell the people that we have the network throughout the world. In terms of the colonization, in Malaysia, I can say that Malaysia is a young country. This year we reached 66, and we celebrated 66 anniversary of independence from the colonized. So we need more time, I think, because as the nation, we need to have the spirit of national love and patriotism before we think about others. We need to improve the dignity of our people, and then at the same time, we can connect with other people. And maybe some of the domestic issues that is not settled in terms of addressing the poverty, equal of development throughout the territory from the mainland of Malaysia and our friend in Sabah and Sarawak in Borneo Island. That is another issue that can become the biggest challenge to address this issue. Maybe we cannot think about outside because there are certain domestic issues that is not certain domestic and very important issues that yet to be settled in our country.
Thank you so much. Your insights on the limited presence of national student organizations in Asia are thought-provoking for sure. And the cultural and historical context adds depth to our understanding of these issues. My next question is for Anvan. How can young voices from Asia be better integrated into international youth programs?
That's so wonderful.
May I ask a question to follow up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
This hesitation towards the Commonwealth. How would you three recommend that the opportunities to participate in the Commonwealth Youth Program be packaged so that it's more interesting or more palatable for the Asian audience in light of the low levels of participation? And maybe you could help with that question and the others as well before you move to the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, sure thing, Benjamin. That's a wonderful question. So like I mentioned, even in Malaysia, one very big difference that I saw is the difference between students who have had a public high school background and an international school background. So for those who, actually for the majority of students in Malaysia, they actually come from a public high school background or a public schooling system per se. So how do we make, the Commonwealth be more attractive to them? So one very interesting thing about Malaysian students that I include myself in it is that we are very interested in programs and really essentially any sort of competitions or events that gives us more exposure, because like when it comes to the public high school system, we don't have much exposure per se. So these type of events are our only way of like looking out of the window that we are currently in. So having said that, I really believe as long as there's effective outreach on this program and an effective way to spread the word on this, I really believe that Malaysian young people would be more than happy to participate and engage with it.
Farhan?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Benjamin.
Farhan, let me hear your perspective on that. And then Sonia.
I think more engagement need to be done. More engagement need to be done. And we need to bring all, we cannot do like touch and go program. We just make that program and we have a huge gap of time to make. We have the online platform, we can utilize all the recent technology to engage with the student, especially student movement from the Asia country. More engagement, and we need to utilize the technology. That's my simple answer.
And Sanya?
I think what's lagging is a very systematic messaging and promotion from the Commonwealth. As Anban said, for example, these competitions. Okay, so we know every year Commonwealth scholarships are launched. It's a set time of month or season, time of the year that Commonwealth scholarships are launched, and students know from these different Asian countries that they have this timeline. But for the youth programs, the Commonwealth Youth Networks or different youth programs that are part of the Commonwealth, there's no set format, there's no set timeline or season where students can join. So for example, we don't know when the next Commonwealth Youth, for example, when the next Commonwealth Youth Forum is. And even the registration for the Commonwealth Youth Forum, it's like haphazard, it's only on the Commonwealth Facebook page, for example, for young people to access or students to access. So I think there's no set timeline where, and even if the message is on Facebook, it's not shared widely. So it's not shared as part of, it's not shared down to the government level to pass it on to the schools, to pass it on to different educational institutes. So I think that's where the Commonwealth Youth programs are lagging behind in terms of engaging students from Asia, and we can also use radio programs. But I think another onus is that when we are part of the Commonwealth Youth Networks or part of the Commonwealth Youth Programs, they're mostly run by volunteers, right? So for example, Benjamin, you are a volunteer running as a chairperson. I am a volunteer. So the Commonwealth right now, youth programs are relying on the efforts of the volunteers to really spread the message, and our reach is limited. So when I share something, it's 100 people or 500 people who are following me can see that, right? My reach is limited to my people that know me or are following me. So I think there needs to be some systematic, even though we have Commonwealth Youth Council, Commonwealth Students Association, and other networks have a wide reach, thousands of people are following them. But if you look at the proportion of Asian students following as compared to other regions, we have a big gap, which I think needs to be through systematic efforts from the Commonwealth Youth Program, from the Commonwealth Youth Networks, through funding, that how they will target different students, different educational institutes and associations.
Thank you so much.
My humble
Benjamin.
of the sparse level of engagement in certain regions of the Commonwealth is we have an artificial community. If on paper there are 56 nations, 56 heads of government that go to Chagam, but outside of that, several nations have limited interaction, then you really just have a few nations that are active, but a big classroom of attendees. And I think that if the Commonwealth Youth Program isn't maximized, it has so much potential, but limited funding. Just like Sanya said, we are volunteers, but I think we carry the message of the Commonwealth best. We relate to our peers who are saying, we don't need the Commonwealth. That's what our peers are saying. Whenever I post about the Commonwealth, people think I am some sort of agent to the colonial agenda. I'm not sure if the people at ComSec, and I speak respectfully but boldly, understand the level of hesitation coming from many of our peers about this institution. They are not going to listen to, respectfully, the gray hairs about why the Commonwealth is necessary. They'll listen to Rijvi and Anban and Farhan, Sanya and Benjamin, because we can relate. I seriously think they should reconsider how it is that they are bringing forth the Commonwealth message. Did you know that I shouldn't have been chairperson? The office of the chair rotates regionally for each tenure. And this time around, it was the Pacific that should have held the chair. But nobody was interested. Either nobody was interested or the persons who applied didn't meet the criteria, one of the both. It was opened up to the three countries in Europe. No one applied. Before, when it was Asia, there was very little interest. And Maisha held the post and she held it well. I hope they take stock that if they want this thing not to just be Caribbean and Africa, and actually include Asia and the Pacific in a meaningful way, there needs to be serious repackaging and deliberate effort to reach our Asian and Pacific constituents. Yeah, and I'm really thankful for the way that you have all spoken up.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really, really needed this intake. I also think like I have a small suggestion. I think like after CHOGM, after Commonwealth Youth Forum, when we go back to our respective countries, we can, like it can be a very small crowd, maybe like 100 people, 200 people. We can organize like small capacity building workshops, and we can also talk about whatever we have learned from CHOGM, whatever we have learned from Commonwealth Youth Forum. And these events can be funded by the Commonwealth. And we can, like collaboratively, we can come up with a solution how we can fund these events. And this can be like one of the ways how we can, spread the message of Commonwealth and CHOGM and all of that. All right, so I am a little curious. I have a question, like, are there any misconceptions or concerns that you have encountered regarding the Commonwealth? I mean, Benjamin has mentioned a couple of things that he has to go through a lot of questions. So do you guys have like do you guys know like if there is any misconceptions or anything like that about Commonwealth in your region? Let's start with Farhan, I guess.
Can you repeat that? I know not really clear.
Do you hear any misconceptions
because
or
of the internet
yeah?
connection?
So I was saying, like, do you hear any misconceptions or any kind of concerns? Suppose like you were working for like the Commonwealth Youth Council or Commonwealth Student Association. Are there any misconceptions around the Commonwealth activities in your region, or any kind of concerns?
I think in specifically in Malaysia, because in our region, specifically for Southeast Asia, there are only 3 or 2 countries that are the member of Commonwealth, and Malaysia is among together with Singapore. And in Malaysia, we do have Malaysian Youth Council that engage directly with the Commonwealth Secretariat and with the Commonwealth Youth Council. And currently, the latest development is through the Commonwealth Youth Worker Association, if I'm not mistaken. We try to educate about the Commonwealth value in our country, the best practice from others Commonwealth country, in terms of youth development in our country. But we also included the best practice of others with the local wisdom to make sure that all the approach, all the ideological, all the technical issue is can be acceptable in our national context.
Thank you so much. Do you guys want to share anything with Farhan?
Just maybe to add on very quickly, from my experience, I've not really had direct hesitations regarding the Commonwealth per se, but maybe a lack of interest. They're like, oh, okay, the Commonwealth is there, but I'm not going to engage. It's more of that. It's there, but I don't relate to it. That's the thing, that they don't see that they can step up and actually engage in their own way that they're most comfortable with. So if that message gets out there clearly, I believe there would be much more engagement.
Thank you so much. Sania, did you face anything similar to this?
I think I agree with Farhan and Anban in terms of if we know more, if the Commonwealth messaging is much more clear, then there won't be any such misconceptions. Currently, I think there's not the only misconception is that the Commonwealth scholarships is one way to engage with Commonwealth. Apart from it's just an institution of the past colonies of the Commonwealth, which not necessarily is no longer true with two more like nations who are not colonies of British have been joining the Commonwealth. So I see it as a important organization, but not necessarily among the common masses, which really do not know how to engage with the youth networks, really.
Thank you so much. Your insights and perceptions of the Commonwealth in your countries provide valuable context. Addressing concerns and fostering greater understanding is essential for stronger collaboration. So moving on to the segment 4, we're going to talk about student life and culture in Asia Pacific region. So shifting our focus to the interplay between student life and culture, I've found that Asian culture can both promote and limit student activism. And our cultural heritage, values and traditions play a significant role in shaping our perspectives and approaches to social issues. But it's important to remember that culture is dynamic, and our youth are adept at finding innovative ways to harness the strengths of our diverse backgrounds to create positive change. Our cultural experience in Asia are valuable assets that can be leveraged to drive impactful student movement. So my question to Sania, what was your personal student life experience growing up in Asian country?
I think my experience was within Pakistan. I think I until the age of 18, I was in my hometown Quetta, which is the provincial capital of Balochistan, which is one of the most deprived regions in the whole of South Asia. I believe our HDI levels are really low. It's a very vast geographical or covering almost 40% of the land mass, but really rugged area and very small. The population is very low and very sparse. So coming from, I was really fortunate that even within my provincial, within that area, I had quality education, I would say, but with limited resources. So my experience was that coming from that cultural background where everyone is really tribal in nature, we were really sincere with each other. And I spent in one institution for, let's say, 13 years of my life or 15 years of my life. So I think that really had paved way for the stability, the associations that I had. We did not have any club system or what do you call association, students. So for example, there was no theater association, newspaper, like news association within our school. There's no active sports association, basketball association. There was nothing. So I didn't grow up around those kinds of associations or unions. But overall, it was a good experience for me. That I did lack a lot of access to, let's say, I did not have the option for my higher secondary school. I wanted to study something more than sciences, but the option was not there. So I had to choose sciences. I think those kinds of limitations are there when you belong to remote areas, I would say. But when I joined Islamabad for my higher university, higher education, that was a different experience in which people from all across the Pakistan were my class fellows. In that case, I think it was very competitive. It got very competitive, and it was difficult in the sense to navigate the process. But I think that's how it is when you move away from your hometown. But again, the students' associations were not as strong as they should have played a part. For example, when I studied at LSC, LSC has a very strong LSC Students' Union, and they are really focused on student issues. They really have different LSC Students' Union. Pakistan, there was a separate Pakistan society, tea drinking society, traveling society. So you could explore your ambitions, explore your hobbies, and connect to different people through these students' union, which I think really lags in Pakistan. We don't have those spaces to really connect. I think there are limited spaces in limited places, but overall, generally, if I speak from national perspective, there is a clear divide in engaging students.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sania. Anban, are there any memorable experiences that shaped your perspective on education and activism?
Right, that's this question is sending me down memory lane a bit. Well, in terms of growing up, like I mentioned many times already on this conversation, I grew up in the entirety of the public schooling system. And I really believe that looking back on those days, I really can see a lot of cohesiveness and unity among my peers, in a sense that as diverse Malaysia is, we are as united when it comes to that. So I think that is really a very fond memory on how all of us, despite being so different, we grew up together and we really were there for one another. So this is kind of more on an emotional perspective of things, but still it really shapes character and understanding of other cultures, religions, and ultimately respecting one another when we're living together. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Farhan, do you have any memorable experience to share with us?
I think the most memorable experience when I completed my 2 degrees online. But I think the most memorable experience during my student time in university is in the university where I associated myself to various of youth organization like PKPIM and Malaysia Youth Council, and then because of my secondary school experience from the religious school from the Malay heartland in the Eastern Malaysia, I cannot engage with the various background of people. And then during my university life, I have the opportunity to engage with the people coming from different backgrounds, and locally and internationally, globally. So it gives me some another views of world, and I think this is how the young people should engage during the student life. We should appreciate our student life, especially in the university. That's all.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing your personal experiences. It's clear that our cultural diversity can be a wellspring of inspiration for student activism. And your journey is a testament to the transformative power of embracing our cultural roots while striving for positive change. My next
Quickly,
question, yes, please.
since Shaikh is not here, we'd like to hear the Bangladeshi perspective on that question, please.
Yeah, I think for me, like growing up, it has been a roller coaster ride for me. The story behind my activism, it's uh, kind of sad, and also it's a little bit of exciting as well, because um, I uh, I grew up at a boarding school, and in Bangladesh, like in a Bengali medium boarding school, usually there are a lot of cases of bullying, a lot of corporal punishments, and a lot of other like negative experiences that I went through. But I also have had a few good experiences there as well. I learned to socialize with people. I met a lot of people from different parts of Bangladesh. So it kind of taught me like how to engage with diverse group of people. Also, like growing up, at a brown household. I think my fellow panelists can also relate with that. Uh, we go through a lot of challenges because brown parents can be very difficult to deal with at times. So my parents were very against when it comes to social work, when it comes to activism, because if you don't earn money from something, that's not something that my parents would want. So in the beginning, that was the case. But later on, like when I started making impact, I started my activism globally, very locally, and then gradually it became global. And when my parents started seeing the real impact, when they kind of started appreciating like whatever I was doing, it felt kind of nice. But in the beginning, the support was not there. So you kind of need to prove yourself in order to get those supports from your family, from your peers, from your society. So it is difficult. So yeah, I think in terms of sharing something memorable when I was a kid, which shaped me, the person who I am today. It's kind of like a sad story, so I would not go deep into it. But I was abused when I was a kid, so when I grew up, I couldn't really properly communicate with other people. I couldn't share my personal stories with other people. It was very difficult for me. So when I was in my university, this is when I realized that I lack a lot of transferable skills. I lack a lot of leadership skills. And my friends who were in my class, they knew a lot of things. Even speaking English, like I struggled with that because in my school, I didn't really get that proper education to kind of, learn how to properly speak in English. I could, like write in English, I could do a lot of stuff in English, but when it comes to speaking, like I was really, really bad. So I kind of learned, I kind of taught myself how to speak in English. I realized the importance of, gaining different skills. And when I started gaining those skills, I kind of realized that there are other people like me who want to uh, have the same skills, who want to have the same opportunities, but they're not having those. And in this realization, like I, together with my co-founder, Shomi, who was also part of Commonwealth Student Association, we came up with this platform called Awareness 360, where young people could, like come together. And right now, together with the help of young people from the global south, we are coming up with a lot of solutions to the pressing issues that we're facing nowadays. So I think this is my story. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us. So we are gonna move to the next segment, and the next segment is about affiliations in student associations. We're gonna have 15 minutes, and this is going to be our last segment. Um, so are you guys excited? Because we are already, like it's being a little tiring for some of us, I guess. So what is it about? So the role of affiliations in student associations, political and religious affiliations have often been debated in student activism. While I respect the diversity of perspectives on this matter, I firmly believe that our primary affiliation should be to the cause of positive change, irrespective of our political or religious beliefs. So our collective strengths lies in our unity, our shared goals, and our unwavering commitment to creating a better future. So let's explore how students in Asia can come together, transcending these affiliations to, drive meaningful and impactful change. So I know in Bangladesh, personally, I have experienced there are a couple of political student association. So my question is to Pakistan. Do you guys have any political student association, or do you think political affiliation is necessary when it comes to student associations, and why or why not? Sunny.
Thank you, Rijvi. A very important question for the context of Pakistan, sadly. So the history of political association and students association in Pakistan is strife with controversy. So what happened back in 1980s, if I'm getting history correct, there was political involvement and religious involvement in student association grew very violent at that time. So, and that was an era that we were under military dictatorship and and there was a lot of sectarian violence as well going on. So what happened was the military dictators decided to ban student unions completely throughout the country, and that ban is still placed to date, despite a lot of student activists trying to reverse the ban. We have not been able to do that because of the history of violence, and that that association is still there. I think between, for example, within the universities there are some specific public sector universities within the country in which we have on ethnic lines, there's student associations, right? And even I, as someone who is from ethnic minority, when I moved to Islamabad, and due to the security situation in my hometown, Quetta, a lot of students started to join higher education institutes across the country and left Quetta. So when I went to Islamabad and I saw that there are lots of students, Hazara students from my ethnic background, who needed help in terms of finding university accommodations, finding just navigating the city, because when you're in a new city without your community, without things that you know, and it's a big city. Islamabad is the capital of Pakistan. Similarly, many students reside in Karachi and Lahore to pursue higher education. So they were not really acquainted with the area. So for that, I was actually one of the founding members of Hazara Students Association in Islamabad. And the whole purpose was to guide students, right? To help them, support them. Those who are students who are senior students, for example, I've spent at almost 8 years in Islamabad, 4 years as an undergraduate student and then as a professional. So I had know about. So what we did was some of the senior students or professionals, young professionals were based in Islamabad. We formed this Hazara Students Association back in, I think, 2018. So, and that was a really important step for the people from my ethnic community, but we never, what in our constitution or preamble that we had, we clearly said that there's no political or religious affiliation involved. And even though the name of our society is Hazara Students Association, but what one our aims was to really, improve our bonding with rest of the ethnic communities. And I need to acknowledge that within Pakistan, there are students associations that are actively divided and are violent based on ethnic grounds. And also in some specific regions or cities, students are divided on religious grounds, which is really harmful for the cause of the student associations. So I think we really need to move beyond those divisions. But I think, as I said, for my case, it was something that was important to have an association based for students from an ethnic minority to just support. And it was nothing to say that, okay, as a Hazara, I am different, or as a Hazara, I am important, or I will try to, my rights are more important than your rights. So there was nothing about that. It was just an association to support students from an ethnic minority group. So I think there should be appreciation of diversity, of those kinds of students associations that spring up organically around a positive cause. But when it turns into something that divides the students, that divides the harms the cause, student causes, that should be really discouraged. And I think in Pakistan, there needs to be rebranding of the students association and really move towards something positive causes, or even if it's not positive, just as I said, at LSE, we had the LSE Students Union Tea Drinking Society, right? So if you're a tea lover, it was a society, something that is positive, that you can relate to, that helps you calm down or helps you, it's an extracurricular activity. So we need to move beyond political and regional divisions.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, like as you explained the whole thing, I kind of understood that these student associations are highly political and they're kind of following the command of their superiors, who are not students, who are like political leaders. So, if that's the case, do you really think students in Asia have a voice, or students in Pakistan or Bangladesh, they really have a voice? Like do you think they're working towards achieving the student rights? But like in the context of Pakistan and Bangladesh, I can speak about my personal experience. I think these students are being used by the political leaders to kind of achieve their agendas. So, what do you think? Like, do you think the students in these countries, they have a voice, really? Sania, this question is for you.
Sure, sure.
Sorry.
Thank you, Rijvi. I think a really important question. When we say students have a voice, I feel it depends really at the context. For example, Hazara Students Association, I shared with you the background. It's a student association that's not recognized by any of the educational institute. It's something that is only for students who are based in Islamabad and from a specific ethnic minority. And that actually helped a lot of students in getting help for accommodation, transportation between Quetta and Islamabad, finding buddies. We have our whole election process. We have a general secretary for sports, so they arrange sporting events. So I think in that case, it really helps if something positive. For student causes, apart from that, if we say students have a voice, I would say it depends on the higher education institute. If we're talking about at the higher education level, apart from that, at the secondary school level or at the primary school level, I would say no, students do not have a voice. They do not have really at the majority of the country, apart from the elite schools. I'm talking about students do not have a voice. They do not have spaces or associations that represent their rights or entitlements.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are running out of time, so I would just ask another question, which is slightly related to this. Anban, when it comes to religion, do you think religious affiliation is necessary when it comes to student association, and why or why not?
Right. Thank you for the question, Rishvi. So in the context of student associations, I think like we've established in the very beginning, I really believe religious affiliation or even political affiliations are not the main aim here. And student associations should, by definition, remain politically and religious-wise neutral because like we established earlier, that is not essentially what they are working towards. Of course, there are spaces for youths who are interested in politics or youth who are interested in religious activities. There are spaces for that, but yeah, I certainly do believe when it comes to student associations, it should be neutral on both ends here.
Thank you so much. Farhan, do you have any take on this?
I do believe that student movement or student association must uphold the spirit of non-partisanship, but they must be highly political, and at the same time, even though student movement not must be non-partisan, but they need to be highly participation in any issues, because when we talk about student movement, the movement itself is highly political, but we can we put it like this: some of the student movement is related to the political parties, for example in Malaysia, but we must stand on our voice. We can criticize our parties and we can agree with them. We must preserve our own idealism, because the young people need to speak of our mind. That's all from me.
Absolutely. So, how do you navigate the balance between religious diversity and unity within student associations? I know Malaysia is extremely diverse country. So, how do you navigate this balance?
In Malaysia, like for our movement is related and associated with the religious association, but we preserve, we uphold the values of religion, the value of goods, all the good value in our association, and we cannot restrict it because of our value. We cannot engage with others, and I do believe that the humanity, we have the universal value that we can cooperate together and we can connect together with other people and focus on the universal value. And I do believe we can work together with different people from different background and different type of people coming from different region of the world.
Thank you so much, Farhan. And thank you all for your insights on the role of religious affiliation in student associations. Are definitely thought-provoking, and balancing diversity while fostering unity is indeed a complex but crucial endeavor. Now, as we approach the conclusion of this enriching discussions, I want to express my gratitude to our esteemed guests from Bangladesh, Malaysia, and Pakistan for sharing their valuable insights and experiences. And your contributions have shed light on the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for the student voice in Asia. And now, this is a very special thing. Now, I would like to invite each of our guests to reflect briefly in their local language on what they hope to see for the future of students' voice in your region, within the Commonwealth, and beyond. I'll start with Sania.
शुक्रिया रिजवी ये बहुत ज़रूरी आज हमने इस मामले पे बहस की, इस पे मुबाहिसा किया एंड और मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई कि हमारे जो मुख्तलिफ दूसरे मुल्क हैं, बांग्लादेश, मलेशिया एंड इवन बेंजामिन ने कैरेबियन एक्सपीरियंस भी अपना शेयर किया, तो इस लिहाज से हमारे जो स्टूडेंट के मसाइल हैं वो कुछ हद तक, काफ़ी हद तक वो एक जैसे हैं और हमें मिलके एक कॉमनवेल्थ का जो प्लेटफॉर्म हमें दिया गया है उसको इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए। जो कॉमनवेल्थ यूथ एसोसिएशंस है, यूथ नेटवर्क्स है, कॉमनवेल्थ स्टूडेंट्स एसोसिएशन के साथ मिलके स्टूडेंट्स के जो हकूक हैं उनको आगे पहुंचाना चाहिए, ताकि एक यूनाइटेड फ्रंट पे हम एक साथ इस चीज को आगे लेके चल सकें। आपका बहुत शुक्रिया आज अगर आपने हमारी बहसों मुबाहिसा को सुना, और इसके अलावा आप अगर आपके कोई अपने चैलेंजेस आप अपना शेयर करना चाहते हैं तो प्लीज हमारे कॉमनवेल्थ स्टूडेंट एसोसिएशन पे मैसेज करें, कमेंट करें और इस बहस का हिस्सा बने। थैंक यू सो मच। शुक्रिया।
Thank you so much. I'll go to Anban. Beautiful language.
Beautifully said, Sania. Right. Saya berharap agar belia-belia Malaysia mengambil langkah yang proaktif dan pragmatik untuk melibatkan diri dalam isu-isu yang terdekat di hati. Saya juga berharap agar belia Malaysia lebih melibatkan diri dalam isu-isu Commonwealth dan sentiasa melibatkan diri dalam pemikiran yang internasional tetapi masih berakal nasional. Sekian, terima kasih.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. Farhan, please go ahead.
I will speak in my native of Sarawak, because Amba speak like the Malay, the original Malay. I will try to present my representing the Borneo language. Buat semua rakan-rakan mahasiswa Malaysia, kita akan melangkah ke 100 tahun Malaysia. Ayuh menjadi generasi yang akan bersama-sama membentang kebangkitan negara ini ke arah yang lebih baik. Pesan kami untuk teman-teman kami di luar sana, ayuh kita sama-sama membangun negara kita tu menuju ke arah Malaysia yang berjaya menjelang 100 tahun Malaysia. Terima kasih. So,
Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. Since Rifat is not here, I would love to give my 2 cents in Bengali. You know, all right. I'm just gathering my thoughts in Bengali. আমাদেরকে সবার একসাথে মিলে কাজ করতে হবে এবং একসাথে আমাদের চেষ্টা করতে হবে কিভাবে করে সকলের যেই চ্যালেঞ্জেস গুলো আমরা দিয়ে যাচ্ছি সেগুলো কিভাবে আমরা ঠিক করতে পারি। একসাথে কাজ করলে আমরা দেখতে পারবো যে একটা সম্মিলিত একটা রেজাল্ট আমরা দেখতে পারবো আর কি। আমরা এবং এটাতে করে আমরা কাজ করে যেতে পারবো সবাই মিলে, বিকজ আমাদের বাংলাতে একটা কথা আছে যে সবাই মিলে করি কাজ, হারি জিতি নাহি লাজ, এবং এই কথাটার অনেক বড় একটা মানে হয় এবং আমাদের সবাই মিলে কিভাবে একসাথে কাজ করা যায় সেই লক্ষ্যে আমরা কাজ করে যাব। ধন্যবাদ। Thank you so much. And Benjamin, I know you're not from Asia, but I would love to hear your language as well.
On a big up for the nice clean self. Commonwealth Students Association to the world. One love. You don't know, sir, every child must learn and every child can learn. Every child can learn. Every child must learn. I'm not gonna stop work hard until Commonwealth Students Association reach where it's supposed to go. From Asia to Pacific, to the tallest mountain, anywhere a student is, the youngest child, we represent them. To college, we represent them, and we just gotta go hard. We're not stop. We're going forward, and we're going to ensure that we impact the education sector at the end of our tenure. Yes, I speak Patois, which is a mixture of English and African.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful.
Thank you all for your heartfelt reflections, and your words resonate with the aspirations of youth across Asia. And I'm confident that together we can work towards a future where the student's voice is not just heard, but also heeded. Lastly, a big thank you to our audience for joining us today, and your engagement and support are integral to these meaningful conversations. And we look forward to continuing this dialogue in the future. Until next time, stay inspired and keep advocating for positive change. And I'll hand over my mic to Benjamin. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ridgely, and our wonderful guests. This has been a very insightful conversation. I know I have learned a lot, and the constituents who will listen to this recording here on after, I know that they will benefit from the insights. I should tell you that as part of our fixation on reaching the Asia and Pacific region, among other regions, we will be coming to Malaysia next year in the first quarter. We're also going to be coming to Brunei, Maldives, Singapore, and I would love, Farhan, that when we come, we would be partnering on some activities, and I hope to be in touch with you very soon on that. I'm quite serious about it when I say, if we aren't engaging students and our constituents in the Commonwealth, then we really just have a fraction of an organization. If there are students in these countries, they ought to be represented. I am concerned that we don't know, when I say we, I mean the CSA, we don't know what is happening in education in several Commonwealth countries because we can't hear the student voice. We don't know who to talk to. Yes, so we are actively moving towards changing that, and I'm really looking forward to the engagement. If you are listening to this, send us a message on any one of our pages. You can send an email to chairperson.csa@gmail.com with a statement of interest of how you would like to participate, your skill sets that you bring to the table, and how best we can incorporate you. We want you to be a part. Thank you very much. I'd like to end on this note to introduce you all to Ridgway in his new capacity as acting Vice Chair of Communications and Research of the Commonwealth Students Association. He has graciously accepted our nomination and he was successful in the process, and he will serving in that capacity until the position is ratified by the CSA Congress in a few months. And I know that he will help us to take the visibility and impact of the organization, particularly, well, of course, his portfolio covers the entire region, entire Commonwealth, but particularly in the Asia region. Looking forward to it. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Until our next podcast. See you then.